You need to earn six figures just to buy an average house right now. And I don't mean a nice house. I mean the plain, boring, nothing special median house. If that number surprises you, wait until I show you what it looked like 6 years ago. Because the gap between those two numbers is the real story here, and almost nobody is talking about it the right way. Okay, so here's the thing. You've probably had this thought at some point. Maybe you're scrolling Zillow at 1 a.m. Maybe your rent just went up again. Maybe a friend just bought a house and you did the math on their salary and thought, wait, how? Honestly, that confusion is the normal reaction right now. It's not you being bad with money. It's not you missing some obvious trick everyone else knows. The math genuinely changed under your feet, and today I'm going to show you exactly how much it changed. Who can actually still afford a home in 2026? And this is the part that matters. What the small number of people who are still buying houses right now are actually doing differently. I'm not going to tell you just save more or cut the coffee. That advice was already useless in 2015. By the end of this video, you'll understand the real mechanics of what's happening, and there's a twist buried in the middle of this that flips almost everything you assume about who's winning right now. Quick thing before we get into it. If breaking down money like this is useful to you, hit subscribe, because we do this every week. Okay, let's get into the numbers. Picture a staircase. Every step up that staircase is supposed to cost roughly the same amount of effort. That's how the housing ladder used to work. Your parents' generation climbed it one step at a time. Save a little, buy a starter home, build equity, move up. One consistent staircase. Here's what's actually happened to that staircase in 2026. The steps aren't even anymore. Some steps are still a normal size. But other steps, right in the middle of the staircase, have suddenly become 3, 4, 5 times taller than the step below them. So you can be standing right at the base, doing everything right, and the next step up is now taller than you are. That's not a metaphor for effort. That's a metaphor for a broken ratio. And we're going to come back to this staircase twice more, because it explains almost everything that's about to shock you. Let's start with the number that should be the simplest number in the world. How much do you need to make to buy a normal house? In 2020, a household needed roughly $66,000 a year to comfortably afford the monthly payment on a median-priced home. That's not poverty level, but it's genuinely middle-class, ordinary job money. A teacher and a nurse together could clear that. Today, that number is over $120,000. Not a typo. Almost double in about 6 years. But here's where it gets interesting. That number alone doesn't tell you the real story, because it's not just that homes got more expensive. Two things stacked on top of each other at the same time. First, home prices themselves went up. The typical monthly mortgage payment on a median home went from about $1,700 a month in early 2020 to roughly $3,100 a month now. Second, the cost of borrowing the money went up too, because mortgage rates have been sitting above 6%, way higher than the historic lows people got used to. So you're not just paying more for the house, you're paying more for the privilege of financing it. Put those two things together and here's the actual result. Existing home prices are up around 54% nationwide since 2020, while incomes climbed nowhere close to that. The relationship between what a house costs and what a household earns, economists call this the price-to-income ratio, has ballooned from about 3.65 back in 1980 to just over 5 today. For context, most financial planners consider anything above 2.6 to already be unaffordable. We are nearly double the ceiling of unaffordable nationally. But that's not even the scary part. That 5-point-something ratio, that's the national average. Averages hide the worst cases. In San Jose, that ratio isn't 5, it's over 11. 11 times a household's income just to buy the median home there. Compare that to a city like Pittsburgh, where the ratio is still above the healthy line, but nowhere near as brutal. Median home around $237,000 against a median income around $77,000. Same country, same year. A household in one city needs almost 5 times the income of a household in another city just to buy the same kind of house. Remember that staircase? This is exactly what I meant. Some cities still have a normal-sized step. Other cities have a step that's basically a wall. Now here's where most people watching this start feeling something they don't say out loud. A kind of quiet shame. Like they did something wrong. Like everyone else figured out a secret and they missed the memo. I want to be really direct with you about this because it matters more than the math. That feeling is a trap, and it's not based in reality. Think about the car repair version of this. Your car needs a $900 repair. 10 years ago, that same repair would have cost maybe $500. You don't sit there thinking, I'm bad with money because the mechanic's price went up. You understand that costs shift. But somehow, with housing, we've been trained to internalize the price shift as a personal failure instead of what it actually is. A structural change in the market that happened to everyone at the same time. Here's the assumption most people are quietly carrying around, and I want to flip it for you. You'd think the people still buying houses right now are just the ones who make way more money, or got lucky, or had rich parents. That's the obvious explanation. But that's not actually the main driver for most of the people who are closing on homes in 2026. The real pattern is something almost anyone watching this can actually do something about. They're buying in the handful of places where the staircase step never got tall in the first place. States like Iowa, Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, Missouri, and West Virginia currently sit in that meaningful cluster where the gap between required income and typical income has actually closed. Meanwhile, a place like Hawaii has the widest gap in the entire country. A household there needs close to $191,000 to afford the median home, while the typical household only earns around $98,000. That's a gap of roughly $93,000 a year, just to break even on afford. So the twist is this. It was never really about being smarter with money. For a huge number of current buyers, it's about geography lining up with income, not income alone winning against price. This is also where the identity shift happens. For decades, adult in America basically meant homeowner. That identity marker is quietly breaking for an entire generation, and the psychological toll of that, feeling behind on a life stage that used to be considered basic, is arguably a bigger story than the mortgage math itself. But that's a whole video on its own. Okay, here's the biggest number in this entire video, the one I've been holding back. Go back to that price-to-income ratio. 5.08 nationally, remember? Financial experts say anything under 2.6 is the healthy zone. Here's the punch. Not a single one of the 50 largest metro areas in the United States currently meets that healthy threshold. 0 out of 50. Not the affordable ones, not the expensive ones. None of the 50 biggest cities in the country currently sit inside the range experts consider genuinely affordable. Let that sit for a second. This isn't a big city problem versus a small town solution story anymore. This is a nationwide ratio problem, and the cities that look cheap on the surface are only cheap relative to the disaster next door, not cheap in any absolute historical sense. Now the warning, because I don't want you watching this and doing the wrong thing with it. The mistake people make when they see numbers like this is panic buying, stretching into a mortgage payment that eats way more than that 28 to 32% range we talked about earlier, betting that prices will just keep going up, so I need to get in now no matter what. That's exactly how households end up house poor. Technically owning a home, but with zero financial breathing room, one repair bill away from a real crisis. The math shocking you is not permission to ignore the math when you actually go shopping. So, who can actually afford a house in 2026? Not the rich, not the lucky. It's households whose income happens to land in a market where the staircase steps stayed a normal size, largely concentrated in that Midwest cluster we talked about, and who are sticking to that 28 to 32% payment-to-income range instead of stretching past it out of fear of missing out. Here's the bonus most people miss entirely. That price-to-income ratio isn't fixed forever. It's moved before. It climbed from 3.65 to a peak near 5.83 and has actually eased slightly off that peak already. Ratios that break this badly tend to correct eventually, either through prices coming down, incomes catching up, or both. The staircase can be rebuilt. It has been before. You are not behind. The stairs moved. Now you know exactly by how much. And that's the part almost nobody else bothered to actually show you.